Hi, I'm Freddy DeMarco for American Musical Supply, and I'm just going to talk through the steps of doing a basic setup on your electric guitar. Here's a list of things you will need. A guitar cleaning kit with guitar polish and fretboard cleaner. Also, a guitar toolkit with Allen wrenches, both Phillips and flathead screwdrivers, also a straight edge ruler for measuring string height. When you take the strings off, if you're just changing strings on a guitar that's already set up, I would change one string at a time. That way, you're not relieving so much tension, drastically changing the tension on the neck for it to shift and change. But since we're setting it up, I would take them all off, throw them out, get yourself a new set. When you restring the guitar, I would tune it up to pitch and then go through each string and really stretch them. And then you retune, stretch, retune, sometimes up to 10 times. When you do that, I like to put my finger over this piece right here called the nut. It's where the grooves are, and I don't want to crack those grooves or split them while I'm stretching the strings. And once the strings are stretched and the guitar is holding tune, the next thing we want to do is look at the neck. I'll literally look down the neck. I'm looking down the side here and here. And you want to get it so there's just a slight bow in the neck, very slight, almost straight. Too straight, and the strings might fret out. Too much of a bow, like this, it's going to be hard to play, probably the reason you're setting up the guitar in the first place. The strings are going to be really high off the neck, making it a struggle. However, if there's what we call a back bow, where the neck's going this way, it's going to bump up into the frets, and they're not going to sound, you won't get sustain, you won't be able to bend them. So I also did a video for American Musical Supply on how to use your truss rod, and that would put relief in the neck or tighten the neck depending on whether it's warped or back bowed, warped or bowed. Once that neck is like you want it, and I would say the slightest bow, and you could go to taste, you could make it straighter. Some of the shredders are going to want really low action in the two-handed tappers, but you'll probably sacrifice a little bit of bending. When you go to really bend a string, it may choke out a little bit. You may have to live with a little bit of fret buzz, but you could experiment with that. But once that neck is where it should be, retune the guitar, because that'll throw it out a little bit. Once it's tuned up, feel it. See how it feels. If it's still too high or too low, you'll have to then adjust the bridge saddles. Changing the string height using the bridge saddles or the bridge differs from the Fender to the Gibson. The Fender uses bridge saddles, and the bridge saddles each have 2 Allen screws, and you use an Allen wrench and lower or raise the height of the bridge saddles. The Gibson actually uses the bridge itself, and you could use the little rings under the bridge and raise and lower. Now, you may have to loosen the strings to get the leverage to do that, but that's simply how you do it on the Gibson. If your Stratocaster has a tremolo system, the goal here is to make the bridge plate level or parallel with the face of the instrument. To do that, you go to the back of the guitar, take the plate off it, and access the springs. There's a plate that the springs are hooked to, and you simply evenly screw in or out that plate to adjust the bridge. To get the recommended string height, you could actually visit the websites of many of the manufacturers, and they'll give you a chart that will depend on the radius of the guitar as to how high the strings should be. And we're going to measure them from the frets. So you go from the top of the fret to the string, and you use that straight edge and simply line it up and set your bridge height or your bridge saddle height to where it should be. Now, again, this can differ. You don't have to do the recommended if you want to have lower action or higher action, but it's a good starting point, typically on an electric guitar, on the lower end, making it 6/64ths of an inch. And on the higher end, meaning the high E string side, you would have it 4/64ths of an inch. That's a good starting point, and then adjust to taste. At this point, your guitar's action is now set, and it should play just how you like it. We now want to set the intonation. There'll be a separate video for setting your intonation, and please view that for the detailed information in there. But generally what's happening is you're intonating the guitar so it plays in tune all over the neck. This also helps the tone. When the guitar is properly intonated and set up, the tone usually speaks a little bit better than if it were not. When intonating the guitar, you simply hit the open string, then play the 12th fret on that same string, and it should be the same note. For example, an E and an E. It's an octave higher, and the tuner should ring in the center on both. So if you're green lighting your tuner on both, you're intonated. If when you go up high, it's not, it's either lower or higher, you need to reset the bridge saddles. They move this way and that way, so forward and back, whether they're sharp or flat, and you adjust them. Again, reference that video to tell you how to do that in a detailed manner. Once it's all intonated, then you're pretty much good to go as far as the playability. The next thing I check would be the electronics. When checking the electronics, I want to first check my pickup height. So we're going to measure from the pickup pole to the height of the string. We'll use that straight edge, and it should measure about 1/16 of an inch. Now again, this can be to taste, but if you make it too high, what'll happen is you'll get a sound where the magnet is interfering with the string, and it gets like a weird oscillating sound. It can cause feedback, and the guitar could take off, especially with high distorted signals. So you want to start with that 1/16 of an inch and go from taste. What some players will do is set this about that height and then take your rhythm pickup or your neck pickup, and if you want to use one as a boost, you can lower the neck pickup lower than that recommended height, and you'll have a little bit of a boost between pickups that way. So that's something you can do. So you can experiment with that. The other thing I'll do is turn on the guitar and turn the knobs. When I turn the knobs, if I hear a crackling or a fizzing sound and interference there, it's usually simply just dust in the pickup pots. I use WD-40. You could shoot just a little bit of that WD-40 under the pickup pot, just one shot of it, and then turn the pot a whole bunch of times. And what will happen is it'll dissolve that dust, and that dust will go away. You'll then have clean signal path. If you do not, you may have another issue, a buzzing, like a ground issue, and again, that would be a repair issue for a repair person. Now, if your guitar has serious issues, like the frets are actually lifting or they're dinged, like really used and old, where they have dings in them and grooves where the strings are sliding into grooves, that would be a job for a luthier. Also, if your neck has a twist in it, meaning that it's warped on one side and maybe bowed on the other, that's a twist. And when that happens, really you need a luthier to take care of that. That I would consider a repair. Same with the fret issue. Those are repairs, not a basic setup. But providing your guitar is in working order and those things are okay, this basic setup will help you make the guitar more playable. That's the reason for doing a setup. You want it to play better and sound better. I want to thank you for joining me for this video on how to do a basic setup on an electric guitar.